series, and today we're at Belan Farms near Oil Springs with Mike Sr. and Mike Jr. And they've been no-till for a long time. I want you to hear the story of how they got here and how they've stayed here, because it's really neat how they've made it work on pretty heavy soils. And a lot of people have tried no-till in lighter ground, but nervous about thinking about it on heavier ground. But in the winter, I had Mike Jr. and Henry Donater from Kingsville and Larry Dick from Niagara, all with clay soils, talking about their successes with no-till. And now we're just following up and doing it with individual farm bases so that we can bring other members of the family into the conversation. And also just to talk about the specifics of how they make it work. So I'm just going to turn it over to you guys, Mike and Mike, to sort of talk about the history of the farm and who's currently involved.
Thanks, Ian. So currently involved is my dad, myself, and my uncle. The three of us farm together. And like you said, we're 100% no-till since
1991.
So we do 3-crop rotation: corn, soybeans, and wheat, and try to stick to that as much as we can.
And you've also incorporated cover crops into the system.
Yes, cover crops. I think we started maybe 2014.
Yeah, I think it was 2014.
And what about the soil types that you're dealing with? And we can see from this picture of the one field of corn that we were following with you guys last year, and it got pretty dry pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's mostly heavy Brookston clay. It's it's heavy and flat,
And tiled?
systematically tiled, most of it, and not as well as it should be, but
Tiles
40 feet or less.
And when you talk about no-till, so since the 91 and cover crop since about
2014.
2014. So has the addition of the cover crops into the system changed the no-till at all? Made it better? Made it worse?
It's more, you have to be more patient, even more patient now. If we get the cover crop mix too thick in the spring, it can be a challenge.
Does it terminate in the fall itself? Do you terminate it? Do you terminate in the spring?
It's all done in the spring, basically either just before planting or after. All depends on what we're doing. It's mostly, like, most of our cover crop goes in like after wheat. And last year we had a very nice crop of cover crop.
Do any of them die out in the winter and some of them carry on and need to be terminated in the spring then?
Yeah, probably half and half there.
And when you say you're nervous, Mike Sr., is that sort of
Well,
try to decide when to terminate relative to it? Is it a dry year? Is it a wet year?
Well, if you knew exactly what the weather was going to be, it'd be a no-brainer. But like this year was interesting because we had like tillage radish that basically wintered and it went to seed, and then it grew again this spring, like from the seed. So, that was, and it's into the corn. So that was like, that's something we try to do, is to plant into corn, like cover crops into the corn. Well, it's already there. So a lot of it, so it was different. It was something we never seen before. So.
You guys have been in no-till a long time. There's all kinds of different reasons why people are in no-till. There's probably more reasons why people are not into no-till. Can you just talk about, why is Belan Farms into no-till like they are?
Basically, it started out of necessity, I guess, when you started no-tilling. So
maybe explain that a little bit, Mike Sr.
Well, us older generation, we've all been through the 80s, and they were an interesting part of our life. And so out of necessity at that time, John Deere, we had the opportunity to try a no-till drill. At that time, they were just basically coming out. And my dad at that time said, this is the way to go. This is easy. And so ever since then, like, we tried to make it work, and I'd never go otherwise. No-till is, I think, is the way to go.
So when you started in 91, did you have this 5-year drag of yields and stuff like that you had to sort of be patient about, or how did that sort of work?
I don't think that we really didn't notice it because, like, maybe it was just at the time the weather was right or whatever, but our crops never really suffered too much. It's hard to tell. Like, you can go to the coffee shop and everybody has a better crop than what you do, so, but um yeah, no, I thought at the time it was good. You have to learn how to farm, and no-till is not just go out and do it. You have to be patient and got to learn how to do it.
So maybe talk to some of these things on the screen, Mike Jr., in terms of the things that are keeping you in it.
Yeah, so out of necessity, I guess it happened, and basically because all the tillage equipment was sold, there was no way to go back. So you had to make it work. So yeah, lower cost of fuel, um, time in the tractor seat, time over the field, and like he said, you have to learn how to farm. So you're managing the soil. So it even starts in the fall without doing any compaction during harvest.
And how important is soil health to you guys with the way you've approached things the last 25 or more years?
It's now become number one
Yeah.
in our operation, and that's when we talk about what we're going to be doing for the season, um, soil health and cover crops is just as important as picking seed varieties and what we're going to be doing as far as the cash crop goes.
And have you sort of seen a change in your soils over the course of time, like doing this?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like it used to be. Well, this used to be what our ground was like, cement, and now it's like, lots of years you can go out with a stick and make a furrow and plant. It's not like you have to really work it. Like our problem lots of times is it's too mellow. It's hard to believe, but it's too mellow. But that changes too.
Interesting. So, this is kind of an off question for you guys, but most of the other people that are involved in the series have some tillage in their system someplace. So, is there any tillage that happens on Belan Farms at all?
There's the only time we would do tillage is we've tried it without, is when we put or share crop situation where they put tile in and we have to level up the field. That's out of necessity because it has to be done. You got to have level fields, but
But you have to find that equipment elsewhere to do it.
yeah, we hire it out.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. What implements make up your sort of inventory that makes you successful no-tillers?
It's really basic. We got the John Deere no-till drill. And pretty much that's foolproof,
Yeah.
for planting cover crops, soybeans, wheat. And then we have our John Deere 7000 corn planter, with nothing fancy on it. And then, yeah, that's it for equipment as far as that goes.
How important is your spray?
And
He's
very, very important. It's nice to get a good burn down in the spring and then follow up later on in crop, like like a post application if need be.
When you look at where the sprayer has to operate within your system, are you relying more on the spray system than your conventional neighbors would be, or it's about the same?
I would say it's about the same.
Same.
Yeah, I would say around here, the reason for tillage is probably not for weeds.
And then the unit sitting behind us here, how important is that in the whole system in terms of spreading the residue, chopping the residue, etc.?
Yeah, so for the many that know us, we had 8820s, 4 of them, which did a good job of the harvest part of it, but this is far exceeds the spreading ability of we're spreading 45 feet. does a really nice job with residue management, because we found that a big issue in the spring. So it's pretty key.
And that will help your cover crops establish as well.
Establish, and then yeah, in the spring you don't have as much of a mat to dry up underneath, for planting corn. So
And how do you plant your cover crops?
we drill them in with the
And have you tried spinning them on and stuff?
well, we talked about that just now, about because it's so late in the fall now. Now we might have to do a plan B, because the original mixture is probably not gonna, benefit as much as we had hoped. So we might have to go to plan B by the time we get into the field.
Because this summer so far we went dry and then we went wet.
Yeah.
How much rain have you guys had in the last month or so?
I quit dumping the rain gauge, so I don't know.
Good enough. Okay. So we talked about these different things, that your crop rotation and the cover crops, the timing, it all sort of plays into what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, we like I said, use the crop rotation as, part of our system to help manage weeds, especially fleabane here. And we incorporate the cover crops to help with any kind of compaction. So yeah, we really try to stick to a rotation.
About this factor of patience and no-till, like, we've talked about it in the past, Mike, but you know, conventional farmers have to have patience too. Are you finding that in your patience, you're later planting than the rest of people around and such?
We're I don't know if we're planting later. We're just not doing any field work as early as others. So when others are going to the field to maybe do some light tillage to open it up and dry it out, that's where we're sitting, and we're waiting for things to happen on their own, and um, we'll go in and plant when it's fit. So
And so you like, are you guys checking those fields every day, like a couple times a day as you're approaching, game day, so to speak?
yeah, we know which ones are gonna go uh, before the others, and we
Yeah.
know, on corn stalks we're waiting till the end.
So you're not concerned about which crop goes in first. You're concerned about whatever's crop going in fit.
Yeah, that would be more of a concern. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so how important is the planter? Like, it seems like, you got a reduced arsenal of equipment because you just don't need it. But how important is that planter to the system as a whole? Because yours it's not the newest equipment, but it's always kept up to speed.
Yeah. Yeah, we they come in the shop here every winter, gone over top to bottom, um, boots, blades, the closing system. If it needs it new, it gets put on, especially the blades.
Yeah.
We've found that you don't want any hairpinning, and that they're doing the heavy work out of everything.
So how many years are you getting out of a set of blades then? Because again, on heavier clay soils.
It all depends on how much, like we do some custom work, so it all depends how much you do. And I can't really even say really.
No, the drill, like, we would probably run over 3,000 acres at the most, and then we'll change that, and that's planting soybeans, wheat, and cover crop into there, and custom work. So that's kind of our limit there. The corn planter, we don't have that. It's not going over that many acres as much as that drill is, but
And on the soybeans, are you planting all of them with the drill? Or are you planting some 30s as well with the planter?
nope. All with the drill, and I think we've tossed around going to 15-inch rows, staying at 7.5-inch rows, and when you look at the whole system of everything, you want the narrow rows to help with weed suppression. It keeps the soil covered more.
Lots of times your crop doesn't look like the neighbors, like because they might plant in rows, so rows seem to grow taller and faster, and it always looks better. But come fall,
when it really counts,
Yes.
you know,
counts.
it's still there. It's the same,
Yeah.
you know. So
So you've been able to look past the roughness during the season type of thing.
yeah, we've you know, to us, planting into corn stalks or heavy residue, it looks good to us, but with you know, the neighbors, it doesn't. It's not as pretty. So
We get a lot of comments,
yeah.
I'm quite sure.
But do they ask you what your yields are in the end too?
Well, you know, we're every bit as good as the neighbors, and we can say that honestly. So
Okay. So, are there any hurdles that you guys are dealing with? And you know, where I want to go here is that we often hear from conventional farmers, you know, that they can't do no-till because of fertilizer stratification, because of delayed planting, slow emergence, and stuff. You know, what have been your sort of experiences with this type of thing?
I don't know, fertilizer management. We're hoping we want to go more to 2x2 or side by side with the drill and with the planter. Um, you know, uh, preferably liquid, but you know, there's lots of options there and different things that we can try or have yet to try. Um, you know, getting over or starting earlier, we compensate that by, you know, you have the right equipment. You size your equipment accordingly. So if you have to get over more acres, you know, starting earlier isn't necessarily the answer, I don't think.
Nutrient management seems to be a big, it's not a stumbling block, but it's something that we need to address a little bit more. We don't over fertilize, you know, like if it needs this much, it's going to get that much. We don't put extras on.
So you do that based on removal rates type of thing?
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, and you know, you do your soil test and whatever, and you try. It's a system that you have to try and work at, you know. And I know nutrient you know, putting the fertilizer on top might not be to the benefit of the plant right away, but you know, over time.
It's also not leaving your farms because there's infiltration happening.
Yeah.
You're not getting sort of water movement across and off the landscape.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of, you know, Mike Senior, all the years that you've been doing this, have you noticed nutrient stratification in the fields?
Not really. No, not really. Like I'd have to say no. And I also say that we don't, like I said before, we don't over fertilize, you know, it gets what it needs and not much more.
When you consider no-till and you look at your neighbors and such, and again, you know, we're not putting one against the other. Just do you feel that you're losing anywhere in your system by what the path that you guys have taken?
No, I don't think so. Like, when you talk about, and then that brings up a whole other discussion of getting away from yield. It's not about the yield, it's about the return on investment. So, you know, our smaller line of equipment, less equipment, makes up for any yield loss that, you know, that we might incur. But I would say that for the most part, we take that, you know, we take and level out the plateau. We don't have too many highs and too many lows. We just keep, you know, everything is
That sine wave
consistent.
is lower than this big amplification.
Yeah. And so when you have a stressful year, you know, it takes that high out of it. We're pretty consistent with our yields. So
And so the more important thing is, you know, in terms of helping other people understand why you continue to be in no-till, where do you feel you're winning? Which comes back to a little bit of just what you said, Mike, but
well, he can speak more to it about spending time in a tractor seat. You know, I've never plowed an acre in my life and hardly ever worked any ground to speak of. So, but
Yeah.
you know, he
That-
tells stories of.
That was always when I first got married, the wife, you know, I would be doing the working and working and working, and then come home and I'd say, "Well, I'm done." She goes, "Oh, great," you know, and I said, "Oh, well, that's just the one way. Now I got to go the other way," you know, and you know, so now farming is fun, you know, like it's it's enjoyable. Yeah.
I'm really glad to hear you say that, Mike, because I find so many farmers, and I'm not taking anything against them. I don't think that they have time to sit back and appreciate like the good fortune they have to be able to play in this industry.
Yeah.
It's so rewarding. Like some of my friends that are more into cover crops and stuff like that, they actually walk their cover crop fields because they're interested in what's going on there.
Yeah.
They have more time for the family and stuff. Like, how does this work with the kids and being involved in their activities and that?
Oh yeah, labor is that the labor saving is key. And like you say, talking about cover crops, we were saying that it's actually fun growing the cover crop part because it's less stress. You're not worried about making the profit off like you are the cash crop. So you can go out and look at the cover crop, see what's growing, take your time. It's actually that part of it's actually fun. So
And how much is your cover crop management changing in terms of your recipes based on, you seeing it over time and your soils? Is there certain species that have sort of fallen out because they're not as adaptable to your soils and sort of mini climate region?
um, I I wouldn't say the species has changed that much. It's just less now.
Yeah.
Amount, quantity.
Change the seeding rate
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
individual pieces.
We're doing less.
Less is more.
Yeah.
Like
So in total, what's your poundage per acre that you aim for, do you think?
So we'll drill in. We try for 25 pounds of our
mixture.
mixture. Yeah.
Very good. And again, to both of you, because you're at different stages in your farming careers, would either of you ever go back
Back?
to conventional systems?
Never.
Never. Okay.
I'm at the age when I can retire, and if I have to do that, that's what I will do.
This is allowing you to continue to enjoy
Oh,
your
yeah.
your your career in farming.
I don't see the benefits of going the other way. No-tills is once you learn how to do it and understand it, I don't know why you'd want to do any other way.
Yeah, and get your soils into position
Yeah.
where you can no-till. Like it's.
This aspect of resilience, Mike.
I would say yeah.
Yeah.
And are there any next steps in the operation vis-a-vis no-till, etc.?
No, I don't. No,
Not
I don't
not
think
in
so.
the near future.
Like you said, maybe it would be more attention to nutrient management type things, and placement with the seed or whatever whatever we get into that way.
Just to that point, what is your corn nitrogen program in terms of topping it up and stuff? Because you probably can't get it all down at planting.
No.
No.
So we have a dry 2x2, along with a liquid nitrogen that we dribble on top of the row, and then we'll go in and side dress liquid, a Y drop.
And
Yeah.
how late are you doing that? Yes, depending.
Depends on the year, but yeah, and so we'll go in, 2 or 3 leaf stage kind of thing, and then if we need to top up any more, we will. So
This year we got kind of caught.
Yeah.
It was too wet, and we couldn't get it in, so we had urea just applied over top,
spread on over top.
and so
And in wet conditions, that probably works fine.
Yeah.
In dry conditions, it might not work as well because it may just sit on the surface.
Yeah.
Type of thing. So again,
Being flexible.
yeah. Okay, so people watching this are probably those that are going to sit and watch this are probably sort of wondering if there's something that they'd like to change in their system. Any advice from both of you at your different stages in your farming career on where to start and how to start? Mike Senior.
start with just a little bit. If you're not feeling confident about it, get started. Like don't put a negative to it, because it's a learning curve. There's lots of information out there. Like, take advantage of it. There's soil days or whatever, and that's a good start. But just try it, because it's not a 1 year thing. It's an ongoing thing. And it's like I've learned so much in the last. I thought I knew how to farm, and I've learned more in the last 5 to 10 years than I altogether different farming now.
I'm always amazed, Mike Senior, at how often I see you out at different educational events.
I
Looking
got
at
nothing to
different
do. So I just go out to these donuts and coffee shop things.
things. Mike Junior.
Yeah, I would say, like, I would echo that. You know, you can't just try it 1 year after soybeans and call that no-till. You got to put a system in place and expand on that system and stick to no-till. You know, that means no tillage.
What about this aspect of, do they try that themselves to start, or do they find a nice neighbor like the Balans that to do 10 acres for them just so they can see it on their own farm, but done with the eyes of the guys that know what they're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you got to take advantage of the resources that you have, your neighbors that are doing it for sure. And I don't think, I can't imagine any no-tiller would say no to help somebody else out to get started on it, you know, kind of thing.
Because if you tried to do it yourself, you might fail because you're not thinking about all the things that you guys just naturally think about
Yep.
because of your
For sure.
familiarity.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of the session. And on behalf of those that are going to see this and sort of give some thought to no-till, I just want to thank you two fellows for taking the time to speak to us about how your no-till systems worked. And thanks very much.
Thanks, Ian.
You're welcome.